Hey guys, it is Rapmark here. So, doing my review for the fifth episode of The Last of Us, uh, Endure and Survive. So, with this one, this is another really good one. Again, it brings up, we're dealing with Sam and Henry in this one, and I thought it was really good, but it had some issues with it. So I still just the whole hunters uh, thing with the whole Kansas City. It just wasn't working for me. Kathleen, again, I thought her performance was good, but just the way they wrote her and I guess the way she was directed, it didn't make sense for me. She didn't quite, and then there was a lot of believability issues in terms of like what's going. Like I'll get into it more a little bit in the breakdown. But yeah, there were some issues with that. On this one, they did stupid freaking Chrome. Anyway, on this one, they did change a few things. So in this one, Sam is deaf. Um, and while I thought that would be a little bit jarring, it surprisingly did work out. I actually did enjoy it. I was worried again when I first noticed that, but I was just like, all right, all right. He's also a little bit younger than he is in the games, uh, which still kind of worked out. Um, and I was surprised at all the practical effects they got. So there's a scene toward the end where, I mean, you have they literally used like 70 actors, and man, it was nuts. You also get introduced to a bloater here, which I think it looked really good. It was an actual suit. The only CGI they added to it was, adding some muscle mass and just other stuff. It was actually really incredible looking, in my opinion. Apparently, this thing cost like a $500,000. They put in a lot of expense for it. Um, but yeah, again, what other changes? I'm trying to think. I don't know. The only other things that I can think of are again just the whole Kansas City like hunters, people, whatever they're called. I don't know. It just that whole aspect didn't work, and what's weird is because I actually did enjoy this one so much, it actually made me dislike the previous episode more than I did. Like I'd probably drop that. I think I give it a seven. Yeah, seven. I think I'd drop it to a six because, again, it doesn't feel like that episode was really necessary. It sounds like they could have just essentially taken out the 10 minutes of Joel and Ellie's interactions, added it to this, and just had one big long episode. Uh, and again, based on the game and where we are and what they're doing, I'm not sure 9 episodes is going to be enough. Like I'm kind of worried, to be honest, at this point, um, that certain things of the game are not going to be done justice, because again, like I said, the last episode, uh, they want to do the first season is going to be the first game plus the DLC, and I'm just like, Man, and you're gonna try to do that in 9 episodes? It's kind of crazy. Um, and yeah, just the only thing that problem with in terms of casting in here in this episode. Wow, I kind of darted there. I kind of went off on one thing and went off the apologize. But yeah, the whole Kathleen character just seemed out of place. It didn't quite work out. I mean, I see what they're trying to do with her, and again, it just struck me as odd. Again, I don't think it was a problem with the actress like herself. I just think she was miscast, and the writing for her and the way she was directed just it didn't add up for what I think they were trying to do with her. And then you have the whole battle scene, which was amazing. The whole horde thing. It was super great, super awesome. But there were again were some leaps that were kind of made and some laziness in terms of writing and story and plot, which didn't quite do it for me. But yeah, this episode went back up. I think this was way better than the last episode. I liked the interactions. Again, I loved the interactions between Sam and Henry, and Sam and Ellie as well, because that was actually really great. Like you felt it. It felt genuine. It felt real. Um, and then, like one of the things I felt weird about in this one, and I feel like it, and it is a change from the game, and I felt that it was largely to again just justify the Kathleen character, um, how Henry they turned him into a collaborator essentially who turned in her brother who was the leader of this resistance group. And then they just try to humanize her so much, but it doesn't hit. It still just hits me as very odd. Like I just don't think. In the first place, I don't think the character should have even been involved. I mean, I can get wanting to humanize these characters, but it takes out time for characters that actually matter. Uh, and again, Sam had leukemia. He needed medicine, and yeah, that was a change. But it's just like, come on, this is already really like awful. You feel bad for this kid, like, and again, I feel like that was just put just to justify her role in this, and it just didn't sit right with me. I don't think it worked, to be honest. So, where would I put this episode? Again, I thought this was an amazing episode. They have the bloaters, they have the horde, they have good action, good interactions with characters. But again, it had issues. Again, the whole Hunter and Marlene stuff just seemed really off to me. Um, so yeah, it does bring it down a couple points. This is going to be an 8 for me, guys. As I did enjoy it, but I have to acknowledge its issues, and I'll get into those more here as I break down the episode. So, you know, we we start off and it shows the whole resistance movement overthrowing Fedra, literally just torturing and beating the crap out of the whoever's left after this. It's just brutal. And then later, it goes to Marlene, and there's a bunch of collaborators, and she's trying to find Henry, ask where she can, and it's just like, if you cooperate, you know, you're gonna put on trial, which you'll lose. You'll do your time, and that's it. And I'm just like, man, she's just gonna kill these people. Uh, and so one does say something about meeting the doctor, about him meeting the doctor and whatever. And then she goes out to her second in command, Perry. So Jeffrey Pierce, who, FYI, was Bobby in the voice of Bobby in the actual game. So Joel's brother. So really cool on that. But anyway, so yeah, she's just like, when you're finished, burn the bodies. It's easier, and it's just, I don't know, just the way it's said. It was so jarring, and it just, you're trying to, establish this her as this intimidating, like, badass leader. She, led this whole rebellion to overthrow Fedra and all that, but she just doesn't have it. Like, the intimidation factor just isn't there. Like, and I'm wondering what they're kind of doing. So, if any of you know, like, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Nurse Ratched, are they trying to go for someone who is, like, really sweet but also really evil, and you just control it? I don't know. But yeah, there's that. So then you have 10 days later. So I mean, essentially all this happened within a few days. Like, Henry betrayed her brother. She inherited everything, set the whole thing in motion, and now she's just hunting him down. And it's so one-dimensional. Like, the problem is her motivations, which I get, compared with her actions, just make her seem more one-dimensional than I think the humanization they were trying to go for, which is unfortunate. It just unfortunately didn't work. So anyway, so Henry and Sam, they have to escape because they realize that the doctor, he isn't coming back. I think it showed him being taken in, and this was the same room that they found at the end of last episode. So they gotta go. They track down Joe and Ellie, and it shows it from their point of view, them sort of ambushing them. And yeah, it's just a good thing. It's just like, you know what? He's number one wanted. They're probably number two. He knows where to go. He knows the city, but he has the guns. He has the weapons. He admits that it's, and so in the game, in the first game that I can remember, he never gives anyone except his really close circle his actual name. And in this one, he's just being careless from the get-go, and I I guess that's what they're sort of starting to build as, you know, his death, which is coming. It sucks, but it's coming. And I don't know, the if they're just gonna do it in this way with this deviation, I'm just like, please. But anyway, that's further down the line. Um, so anyway, how they're going to escape is through a tunnel. So there were infected, but Feder apparently cleared the tunnels. From what I understand, but from obviously the motion in the basement of the thing in the previous episode, I don't know if they just cleared certain tunnels or if they just couldn't find or open certain tunnels. I don't know because there's obviously infected left, but yeah. So they're going to use a tunnel, but he needed Joel because he needed a gun, and that's how you get. So they go off, and then you go into this bedroom scene, which again I think it's trying to humanize her, and then spell out her motivations. Again, it's just like, and her second in command Perry. It's just like, if you're gonna tell me that this is wrong, I shouldn't be doing this. Even my brother told me to forgive, but I'm doing it anyway. And again, it just seemed off. It didn't work. Her character didn't work. The hunter, the whole storyline didn't fully work. Again, I just think there's a problem with trying to humanize everything, especially when it takes a story and you have to divide it into two, like they did here. Which, again, we only have 9 episodes, and we don't have a lot of time for that. We really don't have a lot of time. So, but then, like as she says this, just like, but Perry agrees, like we follow you, and it's just like, man, like why? This makes no sense that you'd be so one dimensionally like loyal to someone without asking any sort of questions, especially like with the whole infected thing in the previous episode. Like, this is a serious deal. Infected or no joke. You don't fucking leave an infected problem to go after someone. It's, yeah. Anyway, it was dumb. It was bad. Anyway, so yeah, they go down into the tunnels, and they sort of find this sort of classroom things. It's and there was a character in the in the game, in reference to these sort of tunnels. I forget what this character's name was. They wanted to try to do it, but they figured it would just be better for in reference to the tunnels and these toys and whatever that are in these tunnels. So now Ellie and Sam are really getting along, which I was really worried about because again, he's deaf. Ish. There we go. Was trying to find that. So Ish was the character on this. They decided not to sort of have that, and just did then just have like the reference because they couldn't properly portray it, I guess. But they I've lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, anyway, Ellie and Sam, like, because he's deaf, I was kind of worried about the interactions there. But it kind of works because he has this sort of like sketch type book where, you write something down or you draw something and then you pull it up and it disappears and then you can do it again. So he had one of those, and that's sort of their means of communication. And her kind of gimmicking sort of ASL. Um, which which worked surprisingly well. I mean, it again. I love the rapport between those two, as well as loving the rapport between Sam and Henry. It felt really, really genuine and honestly organic. It felt very real. Um, but yeah, while they're playing and he's doing like like he's showing her comic books, and she has the same ones, and the ones episode they're the addition, the issues, whatever that he doesn't have. So it's kind of cool, and endure and survive is the big quote in these these comics. But anyway, so Henry admits that he was the one who betrayed Michael for medicine for leukemia. And again, that is a change, and it feels like an unnecessary change because again, it feels like all it's there for is to justify Kathleen's existence, which, like I've said before, it just doesn't work. It yeah, it just yeah. And then when you get into the like final battle, we actually get to where they get out. They don't run into any infected. The problem that comes into is, as awesome as this final battle was, there are so many just horrible like logic leaps that just make no sense, and it kind of breaks your suspension of disbelief. So anyway, the first one is after they get out, just like, yeah, it worked. This is great. And I'm just like, and being loud, and I'm just like, what are you doing? And immediately a sniper, takes them out. So another change from it. This is at night, so that's different. They felt it would help with the imaging and the pace. So, and honestly, I think it worked. Like he tells them to take cover behind a car. Well, he goes around the house, gets in, and there's an old man there, and he's just like, don't do it, don't do it, but he goes to try to shoot him, and he kills the man. And that's when he discovers that he's radioing Kathleen. And then you see a whole bunch of vehicles coming in as her militia comes in, and I'm just like, this is a lot of fucking militia for essentially capturing two things. Like, again, what is up with these people that they would sign up by this? Like, this is a dumb move. They are safe. They are in the wire. They have security, all that. They could easily have taken like at most a squad of 5 or 6, but they bring like dozens of people with multiple trucks. And I'm just like, why? I don't understand like how anyone wouldn't have questioned like how dumb this is. This is not a smart move for essentially trying to capture or even kill like four people, two at least that she knows of. She doesn't know. I don't think about Ellie or Sam. I don't think she even cares. It's mostly just Henry because of what she did to the brother, and then Joel because of what he did to the uh, members of the group. And then you have this. They're going forward, and Henry is just like, I'm going to, sacrifice myself, to give you time to get out of here. And she's just like, no, they're not going anywhere. She's just like, it's me you want. He's just a child. And she's just like, children die all the time. And I'm just like, God, everyone, oh my gosh. The writing for her, again, I get her motivations. I kind of get the character, but it seems like a superficial character. She seems so one-dimensional when they're trying to humanize her so much. It just doesn't work. And yeah. So anyway, in a case of perfect timing, she is cocking her gun and a truck hits a building, goes through the ground, and then a bunch of infected come out. Now this was a really cool scene. I thought it was all CGI because again, the whole like horde thing coming out and all that. Apparently they got 70 extras to do that, and they moved so well. Like, it looks stunning to me, to be completely honest. But then things kind of start to get a little bit weird because at this point, Joel is now dealing with like hundreds of these infected, and they're all the militia around in a circle, like firing upon all these infected, and the man, Joel becomes like the greatest sniper in the world because he is freaking headshotting. He is one shot, one killing all these things. He had to take out. He takes out like a good dozen of them, I'd say. I don't know that for a fact. I may be exaggerating, but he takes out quite a lot. And once again, these guys, oh my gosh, it's just kind of crazy from a certain point of view that he, kind of. I don't know where I was going with that. I apologize. Anyway, but yeah, as they're firing, you hear this, this sort of groaning, roaring kind of sound, and then this big giant bloater comes out of the ground, and let me tell you, it looked pretty good. I thought it was entirely CG. No, they apparently made a suit, an actual suit, that weighed 90 pounds, and yeah, I think they did a great job of showing the bloater. So anyway, it freaking breaks the circle. It's just taking rounds, and it just does not give two shits. It just knocks people left and right, kills them. Perry tells Kathleen to run, and then he goes in to shoot. He takes and then he picks up Perry and just pulls his head right off. And I'm just like, wow, that was freaking epic. And it was like that is probably one of the most epic deaths I've ever seen, and gruesome as well. Um, but yeah, so Ellie ends up in a car, and a child bloater like clicker actually gets into the car, and it looks creepy. It is super creepy. Apparently, they got a contortionist to play that part. Um, and yeah, so she manages to get out of the car after a little bit of a struggle, and locks the clicker in there. But then she notices that Henry and Sam are being attacked under a car. They're being dragged out. She manages to stab and kill two of them that are like on them. And she manages to get them out. But then Kathleen around the corner is just like, stop. And again, she wants to kill him. She wants to kill all of them. She said stop, and then it's this crazy, like, she's not doing anything. And it takes so long for something to be done that eventually the child clicker gets out of the car, jumps on her, beats her down, and then infects her. Um, and it's just like good freaking grief. And then another really weird issue, they all run away. None of the infected see them. They all go the other way toward the town. And I'm just like, all right, that sort of doesn't make sense. It looked awesome. Don't get me wrong. The whole battle looked freaking awesome. But again, there was a lot of broken logic that happened in this battle where I'm just like, how do we even get here? Anyway, so they're at a motel and it's later that night. Uh, Joel asks, or he says if Henry and Sam want to join him to Wyoming, they can. And, a really sort of bonding moment. And then there was, bonding moment between Sam and Ellie again. They're talking about, is she scared? She says, I'm afraid to be alone. And, he's asking, if it's still you, is the monster still inside of you? And she asks what's going on, and he shows the bite. He apparently got bitten on his leg, which is another deviation from the game. You never knew that he was infected. Um, yeah, you never knew he was infected until he attacks. But yeah, here you establish that, and it's just like, oh my gosh, that's so messed up. Like, he knows he's dying. He knows he's been infected. He's gonna turn. And anyway, she shows him her bite and states like her blood is medicine. And so she cuts her hand and rubs her blood on his wound. You know, and he wants her to stay awake with with him, and but she ends up falling asleep. And when she wakes up, he's sitting on the bed, nothing, just calm. But then as soon as she touches him, he immediately attacks. He's turned. He's infected now. Attacks. Knocks her through a door. and then Joel goes to shoot him, and Henry is just like, no, but then he ends up shooting him, and he's just like, what have I done? What have I done? And then blasts himself in the head. And that's another deviation from the game, because in the game he actually gets mad at Joel, whereas this one it's just like he takes full responsibility. It kills him, and then he kills himself. But it's one of those things where it's just like, this is another sort of like, you have to, certain things have to be assumed and that don't quite make sense. Like, again, why would Ellie think that that would work? Why would she fall asleep with him? Like, I can understand her not telling Henry or Joel, but again, like falling asleep, all that, it's just like we're talking like a mental like degradation, like back to a child for her to sort of like think that this is okay, because she knows how bad this situation, what being infected is, what being bitten means, and how tough these creatures really are. So yeah, I mean, so again, this does, it didn't take away the impact of the scene. It didn't. Like, I was tearing up like crazy. It's sad. It's really really freaking sad and tragic. I think it did a good job. It worked for me, but I still have to point out, like, the logic there was kind of broken when it came to it. So anyway, they're both dead, and then throughout that next day, they bury both of them, and Ellie does on Sam's little sketch thing, I'm sorry, and then they go west. Like, it really shuts her down. Like, it's just like, because she talks to him, it's just like, I know it was stupid, but I wanted to have hope and faith that I could save him, whatever. And yeah, I mean, it's really tragic, and it really grabs the sort of devastation of this world. So like I said, for the most part, I really loved this episode, but I think it had issues, a lot of issues, like when it came to like the whole Hunter group and Kathleen character, which just didn't work for me. So anyway, like I said, 8 out of 10 on this one. I had a really good time. Looking forward to the next episode. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.